Dairy Queen, Chapter 20 and 21. Chapter 20. The most disgusting thing I've ever heard of. Saturday was about the most fun anyone has ever had in the history of the world. Listening to Jeff Patterson talking about surfing would be a trip to Disney World in comparison. I milked, of course, and did some work around the barn, and tried not to think about Brian, which was like trying not to breathe. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore and went to see Carly at Jorgensen's Ice Cream. She was really busy, but she gave me a big smile, which cheered me up a lot, and invited me to a party at in the gravel pit, which cheered me up even more. So after milking, I took a long shower and tried to figure out what to do with my hair, and ended up with a ponytail again. Someone out there has all the hairstyling brains I should have been born with, and a clean pair of jeans and a red band t-shirt, so you could see how totally sexy I was, and went off in Mom's caravan as she yelled, "Drive safely" after me, because if he didn't, the police will come and arrest her and put her in prison. That's what she told me, anyhow. The party turned out to be pretty big, with kids and a bunch of teen counselors from local summer camps. I don't go to many parties like this, which probably doesn't surprise you too much, and I'm not much of a drinker, but it was nice anyway. I talked a bit with Kyrie's brother Kyle, who's Red Ben's starting quarterback, and who said it was too bad Curtis couldn't play for Red Ben because it would be really nice to have a shrink on the team. That was weird. Then his girlfriend came over and didn't want to talk football, so they went somewhere else. Brian wasn't there. I ended up sitting on an old log Kari, looking over all those people talking and having fun. Kari chatted away for a while, but then she got quiet too. I sighed this huge sigh, feeling just so miserable. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure, DJ," she said, looking ready for some big conversation. "What's your favorite ice cream flavor?" She broke up like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. It might have been the bear. It cheered me up too, if you want to know the truth. We laughed pretty hard. Just then, Amber of all people showed up, nodding to me like we hadn't had a huge fight the day before. The three of us sat there not saying too much. All of a sudden I asked, "Can you two keep a secret?" "It depends," Carly grinned. "Uh-huh," Amber said, not taking her eyes off of me, and I knew she was thinking about Brian. I dug at the log, peeling the bark off. "What is it?" Carly asked, nudging me. "Come on, my lips have sealed." "Your lips are covered in bear," I said, which made her giggle. There was this long silence again. Guess I could have said forget it, and walked away, and that would have been the end of it. But I don't think that fast. If I thought that fast, I wouldn't have opened up my mouth in the first place. It's just, please don't tell anyone. I'm trying to go try out for the football team. "Jesus," Amber said. I kept working away at that log. "Jeff Patterson is finding out if it's even possible. Please don't tell Kyle. I already regretted opening my mouth. If he find out on anyone and it turned out I couldn't, that would be the worst." Finally, I looked at Carly. She was grinning the biggest grin I've ever seen. Then, "I'm doing cheerleading." "What?" Amber and I both gasped. "Why not? If you've got the guts for football, I can at least do that. Volleyball sucks. I'll get to wear a little uniform, do all those dance steps I used to do gymnastics, you know." "But you, come on, Kari." I couldn't even speak. Besides, you need someone to cheer you on. I couldn't believe it. I mean, football is one thing, but cheerleading, I never had the guts to do that. Although, Kari could really yell during basketball, and she liked people. She grinned at me again. "Don't back out on me now." "No way," I turned to Amber. "So what do you think? You in?" Amber took a swig of beer. "I think it's stupid and pathetic." We both laughed for a second until we realized she was serious. "You're just playing football so you can be around all those guys." "No, I'm not," I said. "It's disgusting. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of. She drained her beer. You seriously need to re-examine your priorities. And she stopped off just like that. Well, Carly and I sat there for a few minutes, feeling pretty squashed. What's up with her? Carly asked. I had no idea. I hope she doesn't tell anyone. Who'll she tell? Well, the only people she talks to, Carly had a point. Do you think it's disgusting? I had to ask. I think it's totally cool. And I think you're going to kick their behinds. And I think you're going to be twice as good as your brothers. No way, I said, and I didn't say it too loudly. I wanted those words to, stay in the air a little longer. Then Kyle came by and Corey just kept going on and on about football and how Red Ben was missing a couple key players that the team could not live without. Until eventually I had to give her a nudge. But unfortunately I nudged her just as she was drinking, so she ended up with bear down her shirt. Which she didn't seem to mind, but I felt bad. Anyway, it was about time for me to leave. When I got to Mom's caravan, there was Amber sitting on the hood, which is hard to do because it slopes so much. She looked like she'd been there a while. Hey, I said, you okay? She nodded, studying her bare cup. Sure? I asked finally just for something to say. You really like him, don't you? She asked more to the cup than to me. I shrugged. You're right. He'd never go out with me. Do you like him? She asked again. I nodded. It was too much to say out loud. Do you, fool around with him? I shook my head. Even thinking about that made me hurt. Amy studied her bear. You don't get it, do you? I told you it would never happen. You're with me. What? You're with me. You're not with him. It's the two of us. Don't you see that? All of a sudden I could barely stand, and it wasn't the bear, I can assure you. Say something, she said. I swallowed hard. I don't know what to. I didn't know. I didn't know that. How could you not know? Amber asked miserably. How long have you known him? Years. I've known him for years. Remember when I said that I only saw Amber cry one time when Harley beat us in basketball? Well, I lied. Because I could see tears on her face now in the moonlight. I'm sorry. That's all I could think of to say. It was so totally lame. Amber slid off the caravan and walked away. She didn't look back, and I didn't follow her. So, that gave me a little something to think about, driving home. Amber was one of those people. Geez, I don't say those people like it's a bad thing, but those words lesbian, homosexual, gay, they like medical words, like cancer. I didn't want to think of Amber having cancer. I know you die from cancer and you don't die from being gay. Not unless you have AIDS, which I've never heard of anyone in Wisconsin having. I know I sound like a stupid hick moron, but I bet it would be a shock to you too. If you found out your best friend was in love with you and thought of the two of you as some sort of couple without you even having a single clue. Which I guess really does make me a moron. But really, when you think about it, explain a lot. Like when Amber really never had a boyfriend. Or why she was so happy to drive me around and buy my movie tickets. And drink beer with me in her mom's car. And skip the prom so we could get drunk together and sleep over. And give me back rubs whenever I needed them. The more I thought about it, the more weirded out I got until I wanted to stop somewhere and wash my hands or something. But as mad as I was at myself for never seeing it, never seeing how she always made jokes about people, being gay because of course she was gay herself. I was just as mad that she never told me. Because if nothing else, I have told her that even though it didn't look like it, I really like guys. Which is why I guess she never told me because she's not dumb. Lying in bed that night, I had to laugh out loud. Here I was, stupid in love with a boy who never even looked twice in my direction, while my best friend was stupid in love with me. If I didn't laugh, I would have started crying. There's another thing, too, which is probably none of my business, and I probably sound really stupid even saying it, but it's something that I've been trying to figure out ever since Mom had to explain what those words meant and why there were some people who acted that way and all. But you know how on TV, guys shows the guys who are really into guys go into fashion or hairdressing or dancing or something like that. It seems to me that if you're a guy who really likes guys, you should do something like, well, like football. Because football is as much about guys as anything I could think of. Not counting me anyway. And the opposite too. That whole thing about tough women being into guy things. Sometimes Amber and I get called names when we play basketball, which I guess is right on the money for one of us at least. But don't you think girls who really like girls would go for fashion and hairdressing instead, not basketball? Because I look at the cute girls in our school, the ones that make up in pink clothes and blow dryers, and I can really see why guys like that. Not that I want to go out with those girls or anything, but I get it. Get it enough to see how I don't measure up. Amber's been my best friend for 6 years. I'm sorry, but I've never once thought she was hot, which I guess is part of a whole miscommunication thing. So anyway, I just wanted to give that huge long speech to explain the look I give people when I say mean stuff about me being on the team. I don't say anything back, of course, but I think to myself that if I was a lesbian, I wouldn't be playing football. I'd be working checkout at the Super Saver. Chapter 21. Who ever said love was fun? I woke up Sunday morning totally fried. I think my poor little brain had blown a couple of fuses trying to figure out me and Amber, not to mention me and Brian, and me and Curtis, and me and Dad, and me and Mom looking back. I'm surprised smoke wasn't coming out of my ears, or something from all that thinking. What was I going to do about Amber? I didn't want to think about her. It was too much. I didn't want to think about Brian either, but even though I hated it, I couldn't get him off my mind. It hurt to think about him. It physically hurt. You know those 8 million songs they play on the radio about how great it is to be in love and how it feels like walking on clouds or something. Let me tell you, those songs are wrong. And it hurt too, especially because Amber pointed it out, that now I was one of those girls who hang around football players like flies on fly paper, like they did around Wynn, calling even though he wasn't interested in much, and even on dates he only talked about football, but the girls hung on every word he said like he was some sort of genius. Even the smart girls, the girls who got good grades and were going to college. I hated whenever anyone makes a crack about stupid girls, and I gave Justin Holmesberger a black eye, a really good one in 4th grade when he called me that once. But when I saw those girls hanging all over Wynn, I really had to wonder, especially because Wynn's skin was sort of bad, and he wasn't so handsome anyway, not like Bill, who always had girlfriends and who Dad once caught in the bone a girl doing what I think you can imagine. So thinking about all this stuff was the extent of my thrilling weekend, and Monday Brian came back, which should have made me really happy, but I felt so jangled up with all those blown brain fuses that seeing him, having him so close, made it that much worse. Hey there, he said, starting right away on the weights. Hey, I said, shoving cow poop, and every single possible other thing I could have said just went right out my mind like I was a TV that someone turned off. How was your weekend? He asked. Great. And then because this was the biggest lie ever told in the history of the world, and because I could never tell Brian one bit of the truth, I had to laugh. Yours too, huh? He asked, grinning. And you know, that made me feel a million times better in the hurt of seeing him and the brain fuse pain. All of that sort of faded away for a while. What, did your horse burn down or something? I asked. Nah, he shrugged. It's nothing. Me and my girlfriend broke up is all. Oh, that was interesting. Really interesting. I'm sorry. I managed to get out finally. It's no big deal. I couldn't help wondering if maybe it had something to do with me, like our water fight and all. Then I realized that I was totally stupid, and there's no way it could ever be about me. Not in a million years, not if I was the only girl on the entire planet. And after a long time, I thought that maybe I should say something Oprah-like, ask him if he wanted to talk about it. But by that point, I wasted so much time that I couldn't. It would just sound stupid. And it hit me that this was just like the fight during Christmas where there was this opportunity when someone could have said something but didn't, and now it's too late forever. So I finished with the poop, and we fed the cows and cleaned up the milking equipment and painted the barn, waiting for Dad and Curtis to take off. Finally they did, and we headed out to the heifer field. We had a good workout, and it felt great to pound on my body, forget all these brain issues for a while. Although I was really careful not to get too close to Brian, because whenever I did, I started hurting again. And if nothing else, it's hard to play football when all you can think about is how much you hurt. And sometimes we bumped into each other by accident, and well, it was hard for me to figure out which was stronger, the pain, or for that 1 second our shoulders touched, how good I felt. It just got worse from there. For example, Tuesday morning, Brian was doing sit-ups on his cruddy old blanket he uses, and I was feeding the cows and didn't have anything else to do. So without even thinking about it, I came over and locked my ankles with his, started doing sit-ups with him. Which, if you've ever done a sport, you know that you do every day of practice. Anyway, it got to be a contest between us, and even though we both knew Brian would win, I was really working at it, and so was he, until my gut hurt so bad, and I was panting and blowing, trying to keep up, and he was panting and blowing, trying to keep ahead of me. And right then, Dad stomped us. We haven't even heard him come in, I guess because we were making so much noise. "What is going on?" he snarled, looking as mad as I've ever seen him. Brian and I looked at each other and in 1 second figured out what Dad must have been thinking as he heard us puffing away. And you know how if you turn two magnets backwards, you can't stick them together again? That's how Brian and I reacted. We leaped right up off the floor. Sit-ups. Brian managed to get out, sir, and frankly we were. I mean, it's really hard for two people to fool around if only their ankles are touching. People I know, anyway. Sit-ups, Dad glared at us. You know I gulped training. Dad snorted. He eyed Brian. You up to speed on milking yet? Oh, I've forgotten all about it, and I bet you did too. But remember back when Mom asked me to drive Curtis to Madison for the Little Leagues Award banquet? Well, if you recall, I had not been the happiest person about it. But just because I stomped out and didn't come back and had to eat mailbox tomatoes, that didn't stop them for 1 second from assuming that I would still do it, and Brian and Dad would milk Thursday night and Friday morning. Pretty much, I lied. You make sure he knows what he's doing, Dad said, looking us both over. The fact that the cows were kicking the empty milk buckets everywhere didn't help the situation. So he hung around watching us clean up, which would have been bad enough in any situation. But that whole business of him thinking that we'd been fooling around made it 10 times worse. Also, Brian really didn't know much about cleaning up after milking, because of course he spent most of his cleanup time on his training. So I had to explain everything to him, while Dad watching us and me having trouble, because Brian was so close I could smell his shampoo and his mom's detergent in his clothes. And it wasn't that they smelled bad at all, but they just got in the way of my breathing for a while. That afternoon when we were running, I kept my shirt on. Geez, Brian said, I thought your dad was just about going to kill me. Kill both of us. We just laughed about it now that it was over and everything. I grinned. He caught Bill in the barn once. No way. Who with? Christine Petrovsky. Who's she? She was a senior. It was Bill's freshman year, and he was... Your brother was messing around with a senior? Brian was impressed. Oh yeah. Dad started hollering, so we all ran out thinking the barn was on fire. And there they were all embarrassed, and Wayne got all mad because it was during football season. He didn't want Bill tiring himself out. You're kidding. Mom tried to hustle me and Curtis back inside, so we wouldn't see what was going on. Like it wasn't completely obvious. I laughed. We both laughed thinking about this. So what'd your dad do? What could he do? It was the middle of the season. Bill was a starter already. I don't know what he did. No one really talked about him much. What a senior. Geez, Brian was still impressed. Yeah, she was pretty too. A senior. We ran along for a bit thinking about that, and after a while it just really bummed me out. The thought of Bill getting all those girls so easily, and me not able to get one guy. I don't know what Brian was thinking, but out of the blue, he asked about the trip Curtis and me were taking to Madison, and started talking about how cool Madison was, how he'd been there lots of times for football games, and normally it would have depressed me to pieces, but instead, thanks to Amber, I got an idea, a very good idea. Not that I had any chance to thank her. Tuesday night, I had to drive Curtis to a friend's house, and as I was leaving, Dad handed me a grocery list of stuff he needed, which meant I had to go into the Super Saver where Amber worked. I was still pretty shook up from my big conversation on Saturday night, and not too sure I even wanted to see her. But it's not like when you're shopping for groceries in Red Bend, you have much choice of stores. The minute I went in, I spotted her. You could be legally blind and still see her with that orange hair she had, but I pretended I didn't. I mean, I was going to say hey to her once I was checking out, but it was pretty weird to get all friendly with the checkout people when you just walked in. I think it is anyway. Amber didn't say anything to me either. I say that she didn't see me, and she didn't see me so much that it was pretty clear she wasn't seeing me on purpose. I wandered around trying to get all Dad's stuff, which turned out to be like one of those TV shows with the obstacle course and the map, and this was the final episode. Here's what was on the list: peppercorns, fresh parsley, and lard. I didn't even know they made lard. I thought it was some old-fashioned thing like quill pens. I spent about an hour in the produce section trying to figure out which pile of green stuff was paisley. I finally had to ask someone about the other two, and it took that guy another hour to find lard, and he works there. And then finally, I had peppercorns in a box of lard and big letters on the side, like they were proud of it or something. So I headed over to the checkout part, but Emma wasn't at her register. Another girl was there. I even asked where Emma was, and the girl said all aboard. She went on break. She's not supposed to go on break now, but she said it was an emergency. Well, it was pretty clear that Emma didn't want to talk to me, and I sure wasn't going to poke around out back behind the Super Saver looking for her. So I just went home with my lord, feeling relieved if you want to know the truth, and a little smug, too, because at least I meant to talk to her when I was ready. And once I was home, I was just trying to get ready for the big trip to Madison. All week, Mom grilled me on it, how to get there and where to stay and where the banquet was, even though I knew it pretty much already. And I have to say, I didn't give much more thought to Amber. Mom got us reservations in a dorm with a bunch of other families coming in for the banquet, and she gave me money for breakfast and gas, and emergency money just in case. Plus, I had to make sure Brian was up to speed on the milking, so Dad didn't think we were idiots, which meant a lot of times showing him how to clean the cow's udders and hook up the milk machine, then clean them up all over again when they're done. The cows were irritated and thwacking both of us in the head the whole time with their tails, although I at least was way too preoccupied to notice. Wednesday afternoon, Dad and Curtis went to another physical therapy appointment, so Brian and I had a couple hours to work out. We were really in a good mood. We only had one more workout after this, on Friday afternoon, because preseason started on Monday. I was feeling so fit and psyched and everything, and Brian was too. Then we did a whole bunch of tackling drills. Every time I come after Brian, it took the sting out of things a little more, if that makes any sense. I knew I wasn't cool enough to go out with him ever, or hang out with anything, but at least I could knock him down. It makes me sound like I'm 4 years old or something. Most of the time I probably am. Then after some running drills, we were so beat that I flopped down right there on the field and looked up at the clouds in the sky, making those weird faces they always make. Ooh, said Brian, falling down next to me. I am ready to rule preseason. I'm ready for my legs to fall off, I said, and we both laughed. I really want to thank you for all this, he said. What, the football field? Think I could be an NFL groundkeeper? I grinned. I'm serious. For training me and for talking, it's been real important. Don't worry about it, I grinned again. I mean, what else could I say? We lay there for a bit, listening to the birds and everything, and it was just really nice and peaceful. After a while, I started dozing, I think, because I was so beat. I could hear Brian next to me rustling. Then I hate to write this. Just thinking about it makes my hands sweat. It was absolutely the most horrible moment of my life. He kissed me. That part wasn't horrible. It wasn't, well, in the movies they make it out to be nice and soft. And the music starts and birds sing and two people gaze into each other's eyes. The problem is the movies never show how you're supposed to warn someone before you do that. You just don't lean over and do that right out of the blue to someone who has their eyes closed. It would have been nice, it would have been, if I had just a second to enjoy it. Just a second to think to myself that Brian had his lips on mine and he was kissing me in a really romantic way that was better than anything I've ever let myself hope for. And someday, maybe if I'm reincarnated or something, because nothing that nice would ever happen to me again as long as I live. I'll be in that situation again and I'll handle it right. Or maybe the guy will warn me. Because Brian didn't warn me, and I felt this thing and sat up with a jerk and smacked my head into his nose and he started bleeding. That was the horrible part. And I won't go into any more detail except to say that I apologized at least 10,000 times and ran around trying to find him cold water because God knows there wasn't any ice up there in that field. And we ended up using his t-shirt to stop the bleeding, which probably wasn't the best thing to ever happen to his t-shirt in the history of the world, and eventually he could laugh about it, but I couldn't. And this probably won't surprise you, but we didn't once for the rest of the day start trying kissing again. When he left that afternoon, he was still making little jokes that were probably funny, but just cut through me like knives. We didn't run, which probably didn't surprise you either. I just walked him to his car with his t-shirt all wadded up to hide the bloody part, and his face didn't look that bad either. All things considered, we washed the blood off. I'm real sorry, I said for the 100,000th time. It's okay. I can barely feel it. I think you snapped a nerve or something. I must have looked so awful that he added really fast. I'm kidding. I looked miserably. He climbed into the Cherokee. Hey, cheer up, okay? I nodded again. So I'll see you Friday afternoon. One last workout. And he touched my hand a little bit. Not much, but enough. Enough for me to think that maybe I could just live through the trip to Madison and everything long enough to make it to Friday.